Life redirected him more than once, and each time Jake Isaacs grew into a truer version of himself. This conversation is an honest look at the turning points that shaped an integrator, leader, and deeply resilient human being. This is the Your Next Success podcast, and I'm your host, Dr. Carolyn Sangal. I am a life-first career coach and strategist on a mission to normalize questioning your career, because I believe each of us is made on purpose for a purpose only we can fulfill. The longer we live out of alignment with who we are, what we do best, and why we are here, the more we miss out, and the more the world misses out on what only we can give. The Your Next Success podcast is where we explore how to build a career that truly fuels your life. We talk about self-discovery, smart job search strategies, professional growth, and you will hear stories from people who have navigated big career transitions themselves, so you can create a life-first career and become your own version of authentic success. Today's guest is Jake Isaacs, serial integrator, co-founder of Gathering the Kings, and a leader who brings clarity and calm into the chaos of business growth. Jake has spent more than 2 decades in operations and leadership, helping entrepreneurs build efficient companies, strengthening their teams, and creating more margin for what matters most. His story is rich with movement, reinvention, loss, faith, discipline, and the kind of resilience forged only through honest reflection. I am grateful to share this conversation with you. Jake's journey is a study in redirection. He grew up moving constantly, learned to integrate fast, rose quickly in his career, burned out hard, lost marriages, rebuilt his life again, and eventually found a path that matches both his gifts and his heart. In this episode, we explore the moments that recalibrated him, the lessons he carried forward, and the clarity he now uses to guide entrepreneurs into healthier, more intentional success. Jake Isaacs, welcome to Your Next Success. I have been looking forward to this for a very long time, and I'm so excited that this day is finally here.
I agree. I've just been on pins and needles since we first met about this recording. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm just thrilled we could make this happen. So, as you know, I love talking about people's careers, career transitions, how their definition of success changes. And we're going to get to a lot of the fascinating things that you do now with the mastermind of Gathering the Kings, being an integrator, very successful entrepreneur, winning in all phases of life. And let's take it back to the beginning. Can you help me understand a little bit about your childhood? Like, where did you grow up? What was that like for you, for the little Jake?
Yeah. By the time I had turned 18 years old, Caroline, my family had moved 12 times. And I'm not talking different house, same city. I'm talking across the country. So I joke that my dad was either really good at what he did or he sucked at it. Non-military family, but we just were constantly kind of climbing that ladder of success. And he was leveling up his career and his job. And because of that, at the time, I didn't realize what a gift they were giving me by watching them move across the country to chase success. It really created this freedom for me as an adult where I don't need to be tied to the same 5 mile by 5 mile area where I grew up in order to continue to live my life. And so I've perpetuated that same thing as an adult, moved all across the country, chased opportunities where they became available to me, and just have had a very fruitful and wonderful career in a lot of different sectors of business.
And so, what kind of job did your parents have that they moved all over? My dad, we moved a lot when I was growing up as well. My dad was a teacher, principal, then superintendent. And so, similarly, I moved all over, but still within mostly Ohio. But it was a good thing because I can walk into a room full of people I don't know and quickly make connections. But what was the background of the employment for your parents that helped that?
Yeah, so my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and my dad was a sporting goods salesman. And so towards the end of his career, he was working for a manufacturer's rep group, which is essentially just a third-party sales company that would connect big box retailers like Dick's Sporting Goods and Walmart to manufacturers like Rawlings baseballs or Brass Eagle paintball was a client of his. And so, yeah, he had an incredible job for a little boy. I've got a brother who's 16 months younger than I am. And so like going to work with dad was like going to the coolest toy store in the world, just camping equipment and baseball and foosball tables and paintball guns everywhere. It was just incredible.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, did you get to test out this stuff or see, or I mean, I don't
Oh
know if
yeah.
you ever went to trade shows. Like, what kind of giveaways did they have? Because
Yeah.
that would have been so awesome
Yeah. I
to
mean,
play
some of
with
my
all that.
earliest memories are staffing trade show booths, him just using us as bait to bring people into the booth so he could talk to them about whatever it is that he was representing at that time.
Oh, that's cool. And so, did you grow up loving sports and those kind of outdoor activities as well, or how did that shape your identity?
Yeah, it's really funny. My dad's kind of from the northeast corner of Oklahoma, kind of right on the Oklahoma-Arkansas border. And so he grew up very country, and he is not very sports minded and he's not very outdoorsy. My mom grew up in the Boston area and she wanted to make sure that my brother and I had that background. And so we did the Boy Scouts and the Cub Scouts and all that stuff. And I've had the opportunity to hike and fish and camp all across the United States. And we were both very active, not only in our church and in scouts, but also in sports. The rule in our family was that you had to participate in one sport every single season. And so we were doing something different all the time.
So, what sports did that? Where did your interests take you and your abilities as well?
Yeah. In high school, I lettered in 5 different sports. I played football, I played baseball, I wrestled, I swam, and I did track and field. And so
Wow.
I broke my neck
Yeah.
my junior year of high school, and I kind of had to pivot my sports interests as I recovered from the injury.
And so you pivoted into what?
Pivoted
Still, like,
into
I think a neck is pretty important. Like, what sport does that not
right.
take a
Yeah.
precedence?
I had to step away from football, obviously, and then I pivoted from wrestling into swimming and from baseball into track.
And what'd you do for track?
I was a shot putter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the one season I did, like, band. I became band and, like, all these other leadershipy kind of things, theater and all of that. But in the spring, I didn't wanna have to, like there wasn't necessarily anything wrong with home, I just loved being out and doing other things, so I decided track, but I didn't run at that point unless someone was chasing me. But boy, shot put, man, I could just do 1 lap, and I did shot put and discus, ran 1 lap, hung out with friends, had a glorious time.
That's right. My defensive line coach for the football team was also the shot putting coach. And so I
Cool.
didn't really join the track team because I was interested in shot put. I just wanted to continue to be around him. He was such a great mentor in my life. And I just enjoyed the time on the team because of him.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And so in all your moving, do you still it was high school in the same area, or did you move during high school as well?
Yeah, no, thankfully I was able to stay in the Chicagoland area for all 4 years of high school.
Oh, that's awesome. And so scouts, you also achieved the Eagle Scout rank?
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah. Wow, that's pretty cool. And did your brother do scouts as well?
He did. Yes. And he also is the Eagle Scout.
Oh, wow. How phenomenal. How phenomenal. That's cool. My brother was an Eagle Scout. So this leadership was an important thread. This activity, this community, this leadership became part of your growing up then.
Yeah, it's been a through line through my entire life,
Yeah.
whether it was both my brother and I were honored to be a part of when we were in high school, the state of Illinois had like a junior leadership training program where we would take different scouts from all across the state and do a leadership training course every single summer with them. And we ended up running that for a couple of summers. And so it's just always been not just local leadership, but high level leadership in different things has been a
Yeah.
part of both of our backgrounds.
Oh, that's cool. Now, when you were graduating high school, considering what you wanted to do for your next steps, tell me a little bit about like what went into that decision and how did you choose what to do next?
Yeah, I had my life all planned out. I knew exactly what I was going to do, where I wanted to go to school. And then that fateful fall afternoon at football practice, I ended up breaking my neck and everything just took a quick right-hand turn. I thought I was going to go to school at Michigan State University because they had a really good business school. But there was a chance to play football over at Michigan State for a little bit. And so I thought I was going to be a D1 football player and go to Michigan State and go graduate from this great business school and follow in my father's footsteps. Through our entire high school career, we had been courted as like the next generation of this family-owned business that my brother and I, or that my dad had worked for. And so we were kind of the gap generation between my dad's business partner and his kids. And so we'd get pulled out of school and go to pitch meetings for different lines as like just the health of the company and the longevity of the company was going to be intact. And so when we got out of college, both my brother and I rebelled against that path for us.
So where did you end up going to school then?
I went to a small college in Kansas called Haskell Indian Nations University. And
Nice.
no, you can't tell by looking at me, but my dad's side of the family is all Native American. My mom's side of the family is all Irish potato farmers. And I got the Irish looking genes where
Yep.
my cousins and everything on my dad's side looked like they just stepped off the reservation.
Oh, wow. How amazing.
So you went to college there. What did you study then?
Business administration with a kind of a minor in speech pathology. So
How did you pick that?
from all of the leadership training stuff that we had done, I have always felt comfortable being in front of crowds and talking from the front of the room. And so I
Yeah.
figured if I could get a more formal education that would back some of that up, that it would be good. So that's
Wow.
why I decided on the minor.
Oh,
And so then what did you decide to do? Like, I know that you were pulled in a lot to your dad's business, but as you started to make some of your own decisions, where did that lead you for employment or things like that?
Yeah, I had a college counselor that we still interact with each other to this day, which I'm super thankful for. But she just told me that careers were changing and the marketplace was changing. My father and grandfather's generations, where it was go to work for one company and retire from that company, that those days were over, and that I needed to be comfortable with change. And so my first big boy job out of college was working for Sprint in Kansas City in their subpoena compliance department. And it was a job that I didn't know anything about. I just needed something to pay the bills so I could continue to support my alcohol habit and my living single habit. And it was an incredible opportunity to just go in and learn something brand new. And again, just over time, kind of the cream rose to the top of the glass and they promoted me into a new position. And in the middle of the training for this promotion that Sprint had decided to give me, I was fired because they did a huge layoff. They cut, like 25% of their staff or something like that. And I just remember at that time how crazy it was because they took me into this offboarding meeting, fired me, and then told me that if I went to a temp agency, that I could be back in the building on Monday doing my job again. But because I was an employee line item, they needed to like shift some of the money around on the P&L. And so as a contractor, I didn't hit the bottom line the same way that the labor number did. And so it was at that moment, and I'm thankful, it was the very first job that I ever had. It was at that moment that I was like, it's not about me. It's not about me at all. It doesn't matter how good I am. It's about the numbers and the dollars and the cents. And I just have to be okay with not taking these type of things personal. I still have to show up every single day and do a great job. I still have to, personal belief system is to work unto the Lord and just give my best. And if I get let go from giving my best, it's not because of my effort or anything that I did.
How wise was that, though? That's a very wise perspective. But you weren't really fired, you were laid off. So your position was eliminated because there's a difference here because some people it feels like firing. I was laid off, right? And I was in my early 20s. So from a research scientist position, doing fatigue and fracture, developing millions of dollars of adhesives, had 2 technicians working for me. My stuff went into automotive. And in this 2008, 2009 timeframe, there was a 40% decrease in projected sales. All of a sudden, this company's making a 10% cut. Me, my 2 technicians, and 297 other people were part of that. And it felt so personal. And I'm like, are you like, on one hand, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, me? Don't you know who I am?
Yeah.
And on the other hand, seeing some of the other folks who didn't get their job gone, and I'm like, seriously? You picked them? Like, but very, very ego driven for me in that point. And there's a distinction between being laid off from a business decision and being fired or terminated for cause, because one has you eligible for unemployment benefits, the other does not.
That's right.
One becomes a little bit of a something you're going to have to explain it how you're getting better, and the other becomes a unfortunately, it was a business decision outside of my control. And I'm so glad actually now that that happened for me, because otherwise I would never get to know about your amazing company. Boy, I can say we do great things. But so yeah, that interesting. But that's a very wise perspective. Where do you think that perspective came? Like, you were already so solid in like a little bit of who you are, and that like this identity of your job doesn't ultimately define you. Like, where did that come from?
It's that I had taken the time to set up like a vision for my life, dreams. I was chasing something that was bigger than just the paycheck. And so I was making sure that I had a job, I had solid income, it was paying the bills, but I had a dream for my life. And the vehicle at the time for that dream, a part of that was just the job. And so the dream didn't change when I lost the income stream. I just had to go find a new income stream and continue to
Gotcha.
chase the dream.
And you mentioned something about your like, was the alcohol habit a fun habit that was just exploring your life and enjoying, or did it ever become a bit of a maybe a not aligning with your long-term goals?
Yeah. No. So in high school, I was very straight edge, didn't drink, didn't do any of that. I was the good kid. I didn't have time to be a bad kid, to be honest with you, between the sports and the Boy Scouts and all
Yeah.
the stuff that my brother and I were doing. We didn't have time for that type of lifestyle. But when I went to college, I was immersed into this world that I wasn't really sure of. And one of the things that I felt like I needed to do to relate to these people that were just so drastically different than I was to meet them at the bars. And I didn't know what my alcohol tolerance was. And so I would just continue to drink all night long. And that just turned into a lot of problems for me. And so there was a period of time where it was fun, and then it became hazardous and detrimental to my long-term success. And so I had to cut it out.
Tell me about that. How did you know that, right? Because sometimes when you're in the middle of something, did somebody have to help you understand, or did you just like, when did it become a point of like, this is not actually aligned?
Yeah. I had a long night of drinking, and I opted not to go to work the next morning. And I called in and made this just like terrible, dumbass excuse. And I was laying in bed, sleeping off my hangover. And later on that morning, I woke up and I was like, this is a ridiculous thing. Like, you're an adult now and you're acting like a child, and you're using this as an excuse for you not to lean into some of the responsibilities and the commitments that you've made. Like, it's now a problem. You've just got to stop. And so
Wow. And
I
so
did.
did you just push through mind over matter, or did you get help at that point? How did that work?
No, I just stopped. I made the decision that I wasn't going to drink anymore. And so I stopped alcohol. Didn't have anything to drink for like 2.5 years. And so, yeah, I wanted to make
Again,
sure
this
that
yeah,
I enjoyed it.
resilience here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. It needed to be something that was a value add to a situation, not something that controlled the situation. And so I had to stop until I had enough faith in myself that I could control it, not allow it to control me.
Hmm. So wise. So wise. Okay, so your position gets eliminated at Sprint. Did you go to that contract thing then and come right back? Or then what did you choose to do? Tell me a little bit about those things.
Yeah, I considered it, but I didn't want to be used. I know that kind of sounds weird, but I didn't want to be a solution to the problem that they created. Right. And so if they didn't value me and my time when they had me, I wasn't going to let them abuse me again in a different manner. And so I went and I found another job.
What did you choose to do then?
I started working for an educational facility doing meeting planning. They were doing seminars all across North America, teaching people about leadership development, teaching people how to use Excel, teaching people how to speed read. And I was one of 5 meeting planners that would book the meeting space for the speakers to come in and do the presentations.
What a cool foundational skill for you to have acquired for what you're doing. That's so cool. All right. All right. So then walk me through then. That sounds pretty interesting, touching a lot of the things that you're realizing are important to you. How did you decide to leave that and go pursue something else?
Yeah, it was really in that job that one of my mentors, the CEO of that company, really kind of took me under her wing. They had some eliminations, and my boss got fired, and that position didn't get rehired. And so as a result, I now found myself reporting directly to the CEO, and she took the time to really start developing my business acumen. I understood leadership and I understood people up to that point, but I didn't understand P&Ls and projections. And she took the time to like really teach me that spreadsheets are the language, the universal language of the boardroom. And that if I wanted to be successful in business, I needed to understand how to walk into an environment, read a spreadsheet, understand a P&L, do cash forecasting and projections. And so I really took my time in that position, learning all of those skills. And a friend of mine who had just left the army had purchased a small business and said, "Hey, I've seen what you've done at Sprint. I see what you're currently doing now. And I think that there's a real opportunity for you to come in and help me run this business now that you have a better understanding of some of these things. Will you come in and help me run it?" And so I ended up leaving that position to get my first operations role running a company for a small family.
Oh, wow. And what kind of work did they do? What was the
They
business
purchased a moving
focus?
company. Yeah. And
Oh,
so
wow.
it was a moving company in Kansas City.
That's cool. That's cool. Okay. And so a friend calls you, you have this need to kind of level up anyway, and now you expand into this moving company operations. And then what happened? Now you're doing operations work.
We took over this company, he and his wife, and kind of the role was she was going to do the marketing, I was going to do the operations, and he was going to do the sales and kind of be the face of the organization. And so that's kind of how we tackled it. And we took the business from one truck and just a little over $100,000 in revenue to 3 years. In 3 years, we had 5 trucks. We had started a franchise system. We sold 3 franchises of the moving company, and we were doing just a little over $1 million in revenue in 3 years. And
Oh,
so
wow.
it was just pouring a lot of gasoline, a lot of hard work, and just, you know, being too stupid to fail. We just weren't going to take no for an answer, and we were just kind of young and dumb and just ran after it. It was awesome.
And so he and his wife were working together. What about your relationship at that status? Were you in a relationship as well? And how did that work?
At that time, I was married. And so my wife and I had both dropped out of college. We didn't do a traditional 4-year college path. We dropped out of college just to kind of pursue a little side business hobby that we had. And so at that, we were married, both of us back in school. And she decided that after she completed her undergrad, that she wanted to move forward and get a law degree. And so she was in law school and I was building out this business.
It's so interesting because that's the thing. It's not just the education. It's not just the what you're doing and what's your greater life looking like. And is that working with you, for you, against you? How's all that alignment? Very, very interesting. Why did you or how did that transition into your next thing? I'm fascinated by this whole story.
Yeah. So in the process of both of us running after what we thought we wanted, both of us being my wife at the time, and she was all in on school and we thought we were building towards this better life. And I was working my tail off trying to make sure that we could get her through law school without taking on a mountain of debt. And so we were very much 2 ships passing in the night. And we thought that that was just a season of our life. And really, we didn't understand what we were doing to erode the foundation of our relationship. And so by the time that she was ready to get out of law school, she was about done with me and my working 20 hours a day for someone else's business. So we ended up getting divorced. And through the process of the divorce and me trying to find myself and kind of recalibrating my life, I moved down to Dallas, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, because that's where my brother was living. And I wanted to just reconnect with him and spend more time just kind of licking my wounds around uh, a new place that I had never been and didn't hold any memories and hard feelings and things like that.
I got you. So you left on an adventure just with, I guess, kind of like reminiscent of your parents going to different places. You're just like, all right, I'm just going to pick up and start new somewhere else.
Yep. Yep. I
Wow.
left all my friends
Yeah.
behind, left a great job behind, and decided that I was going to move down to Dallas and start over again. My brother ended up introducing me to a buddy of his. And as I was also doing the moving company thing, I had a little side gig because I'm always interested in side gigs. But I was running a home handyman company. And so he knew about my home handyman company and said, "Hey, you don't have a job and I need a maintenance guy at a couple of my Marriott hotels. You know how to plunge toilets and change light bulbs. Why don't you come work for me and get your feet underneath you, but at least you've got some income coming in?" And I said, "Hey, that sounds awesome. I appreciate
Yeah.
it." And what I didn't expect at that time, Caroline, was that I was going to fall in love with hospitality. Every time I had the opportunity to learn something from someone at the front desk or from someone at the bar, I just took the opportunity to understand the systems, understand the computer programming, kind of what the process was for all of it. Within 6 months of me going to work for my buddy as the maintenance guy, I got promoted to be an assistant general manager. A year later, I got promoted to be a general manager. And then my career in hospitality was kind of off and running.
So it was this desire to help people have a really great time and a really great experience while they were under your roof. That's what you mean by hospitality, or how did you define it in that moment? What were the attractive things about it that you loved?
Yeah, I just loved making people feel comfortable. You know, they were spending their hard-earned dollars to come down and go to a baseball game or go to a football game or take their family to an amusement park. And they had chosen to stay at our hotels in order to make that dream come true. And I felt like it was my obligation to make sure that they had the best experience possible. And so it was just really kind of creating this environment that my mom created for my brother and I through our childhood, of just it being warm and welcoming and a place that you can put your guard down and feel comfortable to be in. And I
Ah,
just absolutely loved the entire experience. And because I had traveled all across the country, I found myself being able to relate with all of our guests and talk to them about something unique and specific about the place that they lived, which then drew them into me and drew them into our hotel and created loyalty. And it was just a lot of fun.
that's amazing. I love it how this, like, the life is aligning for you, right? You know, even moving, going to your brother gives you a connection, which leads you into learning, and your willingness and desire to just be like, all right, what do I need to do? Let me buckle down and figure it out and find some fascinating things along the way. That's cool. Okay, so now this hospitality edge of your career is starting to build and thrive. What about life around it?
Yeah, I was still trying to figure out at this point in my life. I'm in my early 30s and I'm trying to figure out what life looks like as a divorced man in a new city and making friends, and what does dating look like, and how do I balance that and a career. And it was a very unique and interesting time for me. I got to meet a lot of
Yeah.
really incredible people, a lot of which I'm still very good friends with today. I am a hard-headed dude, and I didn't realize that I had met someone through some of the training that I was doing with Marriott International that was interested in pursuing a relationship with me. And we eventually ended up getting married. We met at a general managers conference in Washington, D.C., which is where Marriott's headquarters was at the time. And she happened to live in Houston and I was in the Dallas area. And so just kind of worked out. I ended up getting married because we were both in the industry together. I moved from Dallas to Houston to manage a portfolio of hotels down there. And she got an opportunity for a hotel in Cincinnati. So we picked up and moved to Cincinnati. And I just kind of was perpetuating what I saw my parents do, chasing success.
Imagine what your life would be like if your career aligned with who you are, what you do best, and actually fueled the life you want. At Next Success, We support all ages and stages through career transitions, from students exploring majors or careers to job seekers actively searching or reimagining their next move to professionals committed to self-awareness and leadership growth. Stay connected and explore what's possible at nextsuccesscareers.com and follow Next Success Method on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook.
How'd that work out? Like, I typically don't go from Texas to Cincinnati, but hey, I can see for love how some places look a little more attractive. Of course, I grew up in Ohio. I now live in North Carolina, and it's gorgeous. Carolina blue sky. What was my spring jacket is now my winter jacket. It's just amazing. Okay, so you get up to Ohio. You have this relationship that's looking amazing. You're in this hospitality industry where you found some real interest, passion, all of that. And then what happened?
And then what happened? Then COVID
Yeah.
happened, right? And it just kind of decimated our industry. And
Yeah.
although my hotel and my wife's hotel at the time didn't close, I personally had to furlough 95% of my staff. And so
Oh,
for
wow.
18 months in and around COVID, I was running a 24-hour facility with 4 employees. And it was just
Wow.
intense. Lots of long hours. Not that we were busy because there wasn't a lot of travelers, but the responsibilities that we all had were so immense because we had this huge facility. I went from a staff of 42 to a staff of 4 overnight. And the expectations didn't change, right? We still had to make money. We still had to have a clean hotel. We still needed to serve breakfast. We still needed to check people in. And so we had to do so much more with so much less that it just created this environment where everyone was burning the candle at both ends. And it was just a really, really, really hard time for a long time. It wasn't a 3-month process for us. For me, it was 18 months.
Absolutely. How did that affect? Because I kind of look at things now from a performance, relationships, and well-being lens. Because there was a long time where I just assumed my relationships were going to be there.
Yeah.
And my well-being was something I could take care of later.
Exactly.
And so I excelled in the performance area. COVID helped me kind of see a little bit like, oh, some people aren't going to always be there. Oh, removing all the things you have to do. Oh, interesting, But how did that affect you? Now you're having to do all this stuff. Your performance is you're doing everything you can to keep it, but how about your relationships and your own personal well-being? How did that stress go for you, good or bad?
Yeah, fantastic. Similar to what you were talking about, I just took for granted the relationships and I took for granted my own personal health and figured that if I just doubled down in taking care of my career, that the rest of that stuff would be there for me later on to focus on. And so as a result, there were days that I didn't leave the hotel. I just slept in an empty guest room because, I'm on shift 20 or 22 hours a day trying to make sure the thing goes. It's really hard to be a husband when you're working 20 hours a day. And it paid its toll. My wife was experiencing the same thing because she was in the industry also. She was experiencing the same thing on her own at her own facility. And similar to my first marriage, when I said that 2 ships were passing in the night, I found myself repeating the same mistakes, right? Super involved in my career, unto building for my family. But what I was doing at the time is I was creating irreparable damage to the people that I was building all of this stuff for. All of the sweat, all of the toil, all of the things that I thought that I was working for was being destroyed because I was doing the work.
I get it. I was so busy chasing this global pace setter, top 2%. You got to go on a cool vacation, except the vacation was in like February. So I couldn't even take my family with me because they had school. And I'm trying to be everything I can for any client that I was working on because I was 100% commission only, trying to make matches between chemical companies and people. And while I'm kind and thinking I'm making a difference for the world and helping people's, not just their jobs, but their families, and super nice on the phone, I'm snapping at my kids and I'm yelling at them. Mommy's on a call. Quiet.
Yeah.
if we did go to Disney or something of that sort, I'm taking calls in line. And for what? Then I realized that, they're getting older. They're teenagers getting attitudes. Luckily, my husband, he doesn't like changing slacks. He's not going to change his wife. So thank God for that. But he sat me down and he said, "Look, I'm terrified we're not going to have another anniversary because you are literally killing yourself." And I'm sure that took a lot for him to say at that point, because he's very much a peacekeeper, very much an even keel, very much a whatever you want to do, that's fine. But I'm really glad that he said that. I had gotten to class 2 obesity, high blood pressure, 3 different medicines, and a regular heart rate going up to 210 while I'm just sitting. And I'm still not connecting that all these body things are related to trying to conform into this version of success. Taken for granted the other stuff while kids are growing up, spending time with other people. My husband's like, one night of poker becomes 6, because I'm just never there. But I get it. So how'd that go for you then? Then what did you choose to do? Or, because you're kind of torn. You're leading this place now with much reduced staff. I believe trying to do you best you can. She's trying to do the best she can. And then what?
Yeah. I mean, the crazy thing is, I don't know if you can relate to this in your own story, but like the accolades kept coming in. I was winning awards. I was getting promotions, like
Yep.
all of the things that I was working towards, I was being affirmed with. And so I was seeing the success, and my wife would come home from work and she would have to go into the bathroom and sit on the toilet seat and just cry for 45 minutes to process her stress and her emotions before she could come out and engage with me. And finally, one day she came home and she just said, "Hey, I just want to let you know I quit today. Like, I'm done." And I was like, no conversation about that? Like, that's 50% of the household income is just gone overnight. And so I did the only thing that I knew how to do, which was to work more, which was to work harder, to be more focused, to be more intentional about trying to grow my career and be successful, because I had to make up for us not having the other income anymore. And so as I'm away from the house now, trying to provide for the family, my wife is dealing with all of this emotional stress and burden and toil. And she takes to self-medicating with marijuana during the day. And, so she's going left, I'm going right. Like, we're not even talking to each other anymore. I'd be lucky if I'd get home and dinner would be sitting on the counter for me and she was in bed. And it turned into living with a stranger. Here this person was that I said was my best friend, who said that was my soulmate, said it was the best thing for me, and I just never saw her. And you can't survive in a relationship like that. So eventually what it came down to is like, I got to get off of this merry-go-round just like she is. And so we decided that I was going to leave my job and that we were going to move across the country. And we weren't going to preemptively try to find jobs. We decided that we wanted to move to Phoenix. We packed everything up in a couple of pods, shipped them across the country, and then put some suitcases in our car and took 60 days to drive from Cincinnati, Ohio to Phoenix, Arizona, just stopping and trying to rekindle that passion that we had had in our relationship. Camping, seeing some of the sites, still using our incredible hotel employee discounts, and staying in some just amazing places, and just trying to recapture what we had had at the beginning of our relationship. Unfortunately, Carolina, it was too little too late, right? Ended up getting to Phoenix after this incredible vacation, this incredible experience. And like, now it's time to get serious again. We both have to have jobs. We need to start bringing in some income. We need to figure out what the next chapter of our lives are going to be. And one of the reasons that we had moved west was all of our family had lived on the West Coast. And during COVID, we were isolated and we couldn't be there for my parents or her parents as they were dealing with COVID, because we couldn't travel to see them. We weren't close enough to drive. And so we decided that we wanted to move west for that reason. And so she wakes up one day and says, "Hey, I'm going to go see my aunt. I haven't seen her in a while." And I was like, "Awesome. That's why we moved here. Do that." So she got up on a Saturday morning, went to go visit her aunt, and she just never came home. And that was the end of my second marriage. And so now I'm in this new place with no job, with no family, with no purpose, with no anything, trying to figure out how do I start over again. And you would use the word resiliency earlier as we were talking, and I'm thankful that that is one of the things that through my childhood that my mom and dad just instilled inside of me, was just this form of resiliency. So I decided I didn't want to go back to hospitality, even though that would be the easiest thing to do. I could have gotten a job immediately, but I wanted to find something that gave me some more intrinsic value. One of the aspects of my career in hospitality that I enjoyed the most was working with local human trafficking organizations to help stop that. And so I found a nonprofit organization in Phoenix that was doing some stuff with some immigrant children. And they were in a huge need for someone that was operationally minded. They had taken in a couple of really big grants from the United States government. And I was able to come in and provide a little bit of leadership and a little bit of business acumen around what to do with that money. And we grew that organization from 25 employees to 135 employees in 18 months. And they were just doing some incredible work.
So you buckled down on your mission-driven purpose here. Now, one question to go back to the Cincinnati time, because I'm kind of curious about this. So you were working, she was working, lots of hours. She just decides, that's it, I can't do it anymore. She quits. And you felt like you had to work more because you felt like as the guy you needed to do that? Or were your finances also designed around having to have two really great incomes?
Yeah, our finances were designed around trying to, or having two incomes. And I felt like I needed to, like, the math equation didn't work, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't going to
Yeah.
make any more money by working more hours, but I felt like I needed to prove myself. I needed to prove the work that I was doing was worth it. The sacrifice that I was making was worth it. And so, yeah.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So did it feel like in those 60 days, did you feel like it was going to work and resolve itself? Like, did you feel like everything's coming around? This is the thing, but she wasn't necessarily communicating accurately what her feelings were? Is that what you think kind of happened, or?
Yes, I do.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was experiencing things differently than I was experiencing them through that trip. We had a
Yeah.
great time. I thought that we were on the same page. I thought that things were moving in the right direction and that we were going to be able to get through that time and look back at COVID and laugh about all of the stories that we had. But that wasn't the case.
Interesting. Okay. So now you immerse yourself into this incredibly important, high impact human trafficking, helping kind of figure that out. And then what? That seems to be like very purpose fulfilling. How was it all the other parts of your life fulfilling?
Yeah. I found myself repeating old habits because I just
Good or
didn't know
bad?
any better. Right.
Yeah.
And so on call 24 hours a day, working
Yeah.
way more than I should have, because the reality of the situation for me was, Caroline, by working all of the time, it kept me from having to focus on the thing that I really needed to do, which was to heal myself, which was to
I get
spend
it.
time healing myself. And so if I just stayed busy with the job, I didn't have to worry about that. And it was the excuse that I kept telling myself, oh, I'll get to it tomorrow, or, oh, I'll get to the gym next week, or, oh, I'll start that diet here next month. I've got this really
Yep.
big deadline that I need to meet. And so,
I get it. I did it too. I was a head attached to a body, but my brain and whatever, like that had gotten me so far. And thoughts were awesome. Feelings, I don't know. Feelings started going on emotions, and I hadn't developed in that capacity. So I just did everything I could to keep thinking until I couldn't anymore. I like to say I didn't quit. I chose myself. I
Yeah.
chose myself, and to just immerse myself into a bunch of uncomfortable things to develop in ways that I had not yet done. I'd heard about it, but I didn't realize the importance or allow myself the freedom to actually understand a little bit more about all these beautiful complexities and kind of heal some past things. But when did you get into that personal development, more fulfillment? How did you transition into that focus?
yeah, personal development has always been a part of my my life. I love reading. I love learning. When I was a young man, a mentor of mine got a hold of me and said, listen, son, if you want to be a leader of man, you need to be a reader. Not all readers are leaders. Not all readers are leaders, but if you want to be a leader, you need to be a reader. I just took that seriously. So I was always a consumer of podcasts, audiobooks, physical books, all that stuff. But what I neglected to do, Caroline, was to apply that to my own life, right? Like I applied it to work. I applied it to my career. I applied it to the advice that I gave my employees. I just didn't apply it to myself. And, just thankful that I had people around me that were able to say like, hey, dude, like you don't need to continue to serve people in order to make them love you. Like we love you for who you are. So
Not what you do. So
Not
the
what you do.
human being versus the human doing.
correct.
Interesting. So when did it transition? I guess, do you still help with the human trafficking thing, or that all transitioned into now the Gathering the Kings thing?
Yeah, it all transitioned into Gathering the Kings. My buddy who is the founder of Gathering the Kings and I were just in talks because he was a great friend and he knew that I was in a period of my life that I needed a friend. And so, we had weekly conversations that we scheduled with each other just to check in. And he was all excited about growing and building this business and starting this podcast. And he wanted to know if I was willing to help with that. And so I would help on the side and where I could, but I wasn't really serious about leaving this job that I felt really fulfilled in, that I felt so much intrinsic value from. And then one day I had a conversation with my government handler who was responsible for all of the finances and realized that there's no amount of work or effort that I can do. It's never going to be different. The government is just going to control the money the way they want to control the money. And
Gotcha.
it was at that time that I realized like I can continue to stay here and beat my head against the wall, or I can go somewhere where I'm wanted and where I can make a real difference in people's lives. And so left the ministry and ended up working full time with Gathering the Kings.
And how did you get to meet your business partner originally? Like, when did you first start to become friends? What's that story?
Yeah, I mean, we met each other. We've been friends for 18, 19 years now.
Oh, wow.
His, at the time, girlfriend were introduced to my first wife and I through a series of friends. And we just had stayed in connection with each other. I mean, we have not been best friends through the last 18 years, but we've been a part of each other's lives. And some seasons we were really close and some seasons we weren't, but we just always were there for each other when we need each other.
Oh.
It's been a great, fruitful relationship and a lot of fun.
And so now you're basically utilizing all these skills you've developed, plus now you're in control of your own destiny, and you're doing great things by helping others become even greater, even better at they are. Tell me a little bit about like what is your, well, tell the listeners, what's the mission of Gathering the Kings? How do you help people? How do you serve? And how are you loving it?
Yeah. So Gathering the Kings is an entrepreneurial mastermind community. Our goal is to help businesses grow profitably, help business owners work less, and the most important part is for them to win at home, right? Not perpetuate the same mistakes that I made through 2 marriages. My business partner, his name is Chaz. He and I are the yin and yang, or the 2 different sides of the coin. He married his high school sweetheart. They have 4 beautiful children, have been married to over 20 years now, and just have this incredible relationship. And then there's Jake, who is still trying to figure all of it out. And thankfully, through his encouragement, we've been able to talk a little bit more about some of those mistakes and be more public about my experience as well, because it also matters, right?
Totally.
You can be intentional and be successful. Both of those things can happen at the same time.
So what was your definition of success? Like, let's say from that maybe early 20s, Jake, what did you think success meant or was from that lens then?
Yeah, I would have defined it as not having to be controlled by anyone, whether that's financially, with time, any of that stuff.
And how has it evolved now to this refined, leveled up Jake?
Well, you're too kind. I'm not sure that refined is the right word.
Why
But
not? Everybody's a work in progress. That's why my company is Next Success, right? Because I'm like, however somebody is that got you to today, dang, you are a success already because you're here. You are
yeah,
here. And now what, right? And just like, I think you're a man of faith as well, but like, God doesn't look at us and see anything other than the amazing beauty that we are. And if we could learn to have that own viewpoint of ourselves also, unconditional, just love, acceptance, wanting the best, that that's where it's at. That's what I want to aspire to be now, and not like, oh, I should have, could have done this, or I should have done that, or oh man, I'm a real, no. If I'm just as valuable as every other plant, flower, tree, mountain, creature, all of that, if this world needed one of me too, then who am I to say that now? Can I level up? Absolutely. Can I become better, getting better skills, make a better experience here for my family, my community? Absolutely. And I got to today. So I would say you are already a success. Absolutely. Up, down, and sideways. And I can't wait to see what you do next. But the question was, how do you define success now for you? Like, what's your version?
yeah, I think the most important thing about that is that we all need to define success for our own individualness, right? We live in this culture with Instagram and TikTok that it's very easy to judge your life based off of what you see from someone else. And so when I talk about success, or when I talk about what I think the exceptional life is, that's really good for me, but that doesn't have to be what it is for you. And most people, unfortunately, will not slow down enough to define what success looks like for them. And so for me, what does success look like for me? It's having people around me that love, care, and support me for who I am. It's having the ability to do what I want, when I want, where I want. You know, the dreams that 20-year-old Jake had, he gets to live today. And it's incredible. I am so thankful that I get to travel the way that I get to travel. I get to spend time with the friends across this country that I have made and developed over the course of my lifetime. And I get to do a job that not only am I good at, but it fulfills me. It makes me want to continue to improve and be better because I want to continue to help others improve and do better.
Yes. Yes. I'm there with you 100%. How do people work with you? How do people find you? How do people find out more?
You can find more about Gathering the Kings at gatheringthekings.com. I'm very active on both Facebook and LinkedIn and can be found at Jake Isaacs. One of the things that we do is not only help entrepreneurs be successful as entrepreneurs. So we do a coaching program, one-on-one executive coaching. We've got the mastermind program. We do in-person training around leadership and sales and marketing and all of the things. But the thing that we're the most passionate about is making sure that we help curate intentional time with the business owners and their families. And we do a family vacation every summer. We call it the Family Mastermind Experience. And it's a week-long vacation to a tropical location. We'll bring in parenting and marriage experts for some intentional classwork for the spouses to do. And then we curate these really cool workshops for kids around entrepreneurship, leadership development, money management, and helping them just grow their skills as young entrepreneurs as well. And it's cool to see families from all across the United States who are like-minded in their desire to be entrepreneurs inside of their communities. But, sometimes, Caroline, that's a lonely existence because the people around you can't relate to the stress and pressure. And
That's right.
we have this unfortunate proclivity to take that out on the people that we love. And so by being able to slow down and put families in environments with each other where game can recognize game and you can instantly appreciate the suffering and the hardship and the success that you've had because you've experienced it also.
That sounds
So,
beautiful. And it's so lovely also for the kids of all ages to get to experience and see. And their
yeah,
other families are going through similar
yeah,
things. Now, it'll be interesting to see, though, how many of these younger generations choose to want to perhaps be that next gen that could be lined up for them. That'll be interesting to see how that develops.
We're currently planning our 4th summer trip, right? So we've done 3 summer trips, and the beautiful thing that has come from it that I didn't expect when we started was the relationships that these children are making with each other, and just like stacking years and years of time with each other. And so that's now blossoming into co-hosting podcasts together and having competitions on who can sell the most at a garage sale, and just like these little things that they're doing with each other to encourage each other, but then also spur each other on in success. It's been a lot of fun to watch.
That sounds amazing. That sounds amazing. Well, thank you so much. I feel like I could talk to you for like weeks and weeks and months. Thank you for sharing more of your story on your next success. And I can't wait. Although you've been successful in every single thing you've done, and clearly with the Gathering of the Kings, but I can't wait to see how that continues to blossom and evolve in this next beautiful chapter for you as well.
Thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate the opportunity to come in and speak to your audience.
Thanks, Jake. Thank you.
Jake, thank you for your honesty, your humility, and the clarity that you brought into this conversation. Your life reflects the quiet strength that comes from choosing growth, even when the path shifts unexpectedly. Thanks for listening to Your Next Success with Dr. Carolyn Sangal. Remember, authentic success is yours to define and includes aligning your career to support the life you want.